I have been really interested in injecting my artistic style and approach with more creativity lately. So I decided to create a 7-day automatic drawing challenge. Each day I sat down with a piece of paper and I intuitively drew on the page, tapping into my subconscious and letting go of any plans. And although the process was pretty much the same each of the 7 days, the size and scale of these projects changed throughout the course of the challenge, and so did my materials. It's day 1 of this automatic drawing challenge, and I am so excited. I'm working on this piece of toned paper. This is Strathmore 400 series, and I'm going to use pastel pencils. Because of YouTube copyright rules, I can't play the music I was listening to, but that was such a big part of this particular piece. I put on the music and I moved my hand around the page, responding to it. Sometimes I will even dance when I do this, and apparently it's genetic because my son does it too. I got bored with the pastel pencils pretty quick, and so I pulled out my pan pastels and my sponges, and I loved the different kinds of marks that I could make and the addition of more vibrant colors with these materials. So I've been at this for about an hour. I really enjoyed this. I felt in the moment, I felt very present in what I was doing. If I take this piece as a whole, I don't know if I'm super motivated to finish it and bring it towards something that is a final product, but when I break this drawing down into smaller parts, there are some pieces that I am more excited by and that I would be interested in doing some more with. Like, the process was what was most important, but as far as the product, I definitely think there's something here that I can play with and do something more with later. I decided to go digital for day 2. So I pulled out my iPad. I have a program called Procreate on there, and I have the Apple Pencil, and I just started doodling the exact same way that I did for day 1, except this time I didn't have music. I was just sitting on the couch and I was talking to my kids and my husband, and I was just letting my subconscious run wild. In the research that I did for this automatic drawing process, I read something really interesting about intentionally distracting yourself so that you can really activate the subconscious. And it was interesting to see what would pop out when I wasn't thinking about it too hard. It is by no means necessary to begin painting when you're doing this automatic drawing process, but I am such a colorist that I just couldn't help it. Once I had some line on there, I continued to respond with color and shape with the subconscious. So I still wasn't planning or thinking about things too hard, but I definitely was being very intuitive with color. So for day 3 of this challenge, I grabbed my Pentel pocket brush pen and I just started playing around with different kinds of lines. It was kind of a nice way to get going, and if you are for any reason feeling a little bit uncomfortable getting started with automatic drawing, this could be a warm-up for that. You could just say, how many different kinds of lines can I make? After I did this line exercise, I did an automatic drawing with this brush pen. One thing I was noticing was that when it was time to make really thin lines, it felt really difficult to do with this brush pen. I played around with a different pen first, but then I combined my Derwent line makers with the brush pen and was able to get a wider variety of line, which had a deeper line vocabulary, more interest. If you are interested in diving into automatic drawing more, I have a video that walks you through your very first automatic drawing. It'll be linked down in the notes below, and it utilizes these brush pens and line makers, which are also linked down in the notes below. So it's day 4 for the automatic drawing, and I am going to use these watercolor pencils. These are the Museum Aquarelles by Caran, and I'm going to follow the same kind of procedure or rules that I've been following, where I'm just responding. I'm not coming in with any kind of plan, any kind of thumbnailing, and I'm just going for it. And I will be listening to music while I do this. I have found that the music has been a really nice way to stay really present and to be connected to the mark that I'm making. If you're curious, I've had it on just a random playlist, and so far I've been listening to Take a Chance on Me by ABBA, and then September by Earth, Wind, and fire. Okay, so I think that the first pass of color pencil is good for now. I want to come in and start playing with water, which would be really interesting because so much about this piece so far is about the mark, and this could completely change it. So I'm going to continue to respond to music. Now I'm adding water and I'm listening to Tainted Love. Whether you're doing an automatic drawing or a more representational piece of artwork, when you are working with watercolor pencils, there are no like hard and fast rules. You can jump back and forth between the pencil and then adding water. One of the biggest things that I would recommend though is that when you choose to add the water, you do so really thoughtfully and conscientiously, and you don't just slap it on there. Once you activate the pigment and it's loose and moving around like paint, you can actually drag it around and the mark shows up. So when I'm adding water and when I'm adding pencils, I am being really specific and strategic. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's done. Now, it could have been done a while ago, but at this point, I'm thinking more about composition and I'm thinking more about where this could turn into a final piece. So I feel like the automatic part of it is over. Before I start sharing day number 5, I'm gonna invite you to hit the like button. It's a great way to support the channel, and all it takes is one teeny tiny little click. Another great way to support the channel is to use my affiliate links if you're interested in trying any of the products in this video, and they can all be found down in the notes below. So for day 5, I did an automatic drawing using just a red, yellow, and blue POLYCHROMOS colored pencil. And I think that the Prismacolors work better than the waxier colored pencils for something like this, just because they don't need to be sharpened quite as often so that you can be more in the moment and more responsive. I think this was a really fun combo. I don't love the end product quite as much as I do like just the black ink or some of my watercolor pencil pieces, but thought it was a really fun way and something really simple that can introduce you to color without needing more than just a few pencils. Day 6 was probably one of my favorite days for the automatic drawing challenge because I did a couple things a little differently. So I decided that I was going to work with metallic products on black paper, and once I started setting that up, I thought, oh my gosh, my kids would love doing this. I don't think that they've ever really like gone full out drawing on black paper. So before I actually started my project, I set them up. I explained to them what automatic drawing was. I put on some music and I guided them through the process. And it was really cool to see that, number one, anybody of any age can do this automatic drawing. It doesn't require any kind of artistic background. And number 2, they were so engaged and involved in it. And this is a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. I also loved seeing how they interacted with the supplies before I took the supplies and incorporated them into my own drawing. So how does this apply to you? Go ahead and give automatic drawing a try with a friend, a family member, a roommate, your kids, your parents, and remind them that you don't need any art experience to do this. This is just allowing your hand to move across the page. It can be incredibly therapeutic and it can really free up your creativity. Your final automatic drawing doesn't have to be something that you frame. It's all about the process. Okay, so let's talk materials for this particular project. I'm using a piece of black heavyweight Bristol paper by B Paper, and up until recently, the B Paper hasn't been widely available. I don't know if there was a shortage or something, but I haven't been able to get my B Paper sketchbooks, and I just checked on Blick and they are available again. So if you want some super awesome either black Bristol paper for a project like this, or just like a really heavy duty sketchbook, those will be linked down in the notes below. The first thing that I did on the paper after securing it to the board was I traced that automatic line that's responding to the music onto the paper with a silver POLYCHROMOS. This is a legit silver metallic colored pencil and not something I would use in normal like detailed colored pencil work, but super, super fun on the black paper. After the line was established, I came in with the Derwent paint pans metallic colors, and I used a variety of colors. Probably the main one I used was gold for this piece, and oh my gosh, I absolutely loved the way these metallic paints showed up on the black paper. They were so fun to work with, and they were pretty juicy. I mean, if I got the paint activated, I could lay down quite a bit, and it would show up really opaquely. The other main supply that I'm using are the Neocolor 2 Wax Artist Crayons by Caran. These are kind of like
Crayola crayons on steroids. They are super rich, super bold, but they lay down this really expressive, almost primitive mark. It's hard to get super detailed with these, which can be nice if you're trying to loosen up. A couple fun facts that I want to share with you about the Neocolor 2 crayons. So they are water activated. You can add water and they turn into a paint. But they also are heat activated because they're a wax base. And every once in a while, I would play around with the blow dryer to really heat up my paper or the crayons. They would lay down a really rich, thick deposit of color. And this was a really fun way to play around and to work with these a little bit. Working on two projects at the same time had a ton of awesome benefits. One was that I was able to constantly stay present if I was getting stuck or bored or too deep in design on one piece. I could just hop over to the other. And it also allowed me to wait for things to dry on one while I was working on the other. So I was able to stay working, stay busy, stay present the entire time. And I decided to level up and work on 4 at the same time for day 7. For my last day, I used all the materials that I was really feeling for all the previous days. So I started with the Museum Aquarelle water-soluble pencils, and I just approached each one individually. I came through with line for each, then I came through with this green colored pencil and responded to each. And then I came through with aqua colored pencil and I responded to each. And this really, kind of systematic response allowed me to stay present in the individual piece, especially at the beginning. Once I got all of the Museum Aquarelle colored pencil in first, then I began activating it with water. After that base layer was complete, I continued with the Museum Aquarelles, but I also added in Neocolor 2 Artist Crayons and some more of the metallic paint pans. This was a really fun combo, and I discovered this combo because I tried automatic drawing over and over again, and I tried it in new combinations with new materials in new formats. If you go into a challenge, I think a 7-day challenge is perfect. You learn a lot, you have an opportunity to explore, but you don't get to the point where you're bored or you're doing it out of obligation necessarily. I am really excited to now depart from the 7-day challenge and maybe scale back to doing automatic drawing once every week or once every other week, or maybe as a warm-up when I'm feeling stuck in my studio, and to begin incorporating these lessons that I've learned into my own artwork that I work on a regular basis.
So I've got these automatic drawings, and now I've got to figure out what next. What am I going to learn from these? What am I going to do with them? And I have been playing around with the idea of springboarding into a new project where I use some of these marks, color schemes, and approaches, but mixing them with some of the other things that I do, like realistic florals. But I'd really like to know from you, which one of these pieces are you most drawn to? Which color schemes are you interested in, and which marks do you find the most exciting? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Your opinions on this are so helpful. So now you know a few different approaches to automatic drawing, and now it's time for you to give it a try. Go ahead and check out this video where I walk you through the entire process of automatic drawing and share a bit of the history on where this really unique drawing exercise came from. I can't wait to see you there. Bye.